Hi guys, my name is Kayla Shaw and you're watching In Focus with Witness TV. Our latest Witness articles on the homeless have sparked both positive and negative response. This is in the context of compassion mainly. While myself, our photographer, Moketsi Mamane, and our assistant editor, Jade LaRue, tried our very best to convey their stories in our own different ways. There's only certain people that can tell us the actual plight they face. I'm joined here by one of these people, Caroline Holley, founder of Life Changer and Lifeboat, who, with her dedicated team, are one of the many organizations championing the cause, placing a face to the name of the homeless. Hello, how are you doing, Caroline?
Well, thanks. Nice to see you, Kayla.
Oh gosh, yeah. I think we should just start from the beginning, because obviously the plight of the homeless is something that Pietermaritzburg is no stranger to, I don't think. So, and I know your organization tackles it straight on. You guys are on the streets, especially every Monday with your Monday ministry. So yeah, I think let's just jump right into it. How did Life Changer even come about?
Do you want the long version or the short version?
I think give us the long version.
Basically, so the long version was I was doing an Easter Lent practice of distributing care parcels for 40 days before Easter. And when I gave the same person a care parcel the second time, and he remembered my name, and he called me Mama Colgate. I was so struck by the fact that this was someone I'd never even looked at in the eyes. And and God dropped into my heart that he doesn't have favorites. And that we were all born with a plan and with a purpose and with a destiny. And I had no choice into the family into which I was born, and he had no choice into the world he was born. So it's just stirred something in me. And anyway, after various meetings and a few people coming on board and a few people falling away, about 4 months later, in August of 2017, there was a team of us, and we decided to start Lifeboat or Life Changer. Why we called it Life Changer is because we wanted to obviously change lives, but also our scripture verse that underpins it is God sets the lonely into families. And we were like, we didn't want to be just a soup kitchen. We didn't want to be just a resource center. We wanted to be family. When you think about someone who's homeless, home can be a person. It doesn't have to be a building. Home could be your parents, home could be your spouse, home could be your family or your friends. And so we wanted to be that. And so we made sure that it was not a program where people could just come, receive, and leave without us getting to know them and interacting with them. Hence, Lifeboat was born, which was the voucher system, because a lifeboat saves you from a sinking ship and gets you to dry land, but it's not your end destination. And so we thought if we could get away that the clients who come to Life Changer would have the dignity of spending the voucher, would have the dignity of choosing what to spend that money on, then we're giving them that right and that privilege. We're also enabling them to come and spend time with us, feeling that they're entitled to be there because they have the money to spend, as you and I would go into a restaurant and feel entitled to be there because we are going to pay for our meal. And so it was a sort of a dignity exercise because they have the dignity to refuse the Life Changer voucher, or they have the dignity to accept it and then choose what to spend it on. So so basically Lifeboat came out of that, and originally it ran out of the back of a car boot.
Sure.
And we would go around with my co-founder, Tami Gwabaza. We would drive around town and we would serve people out of a car boot, and only people with vouchers would receive anything. And then we moved to the back of Salgrow Centre into a tiny little 4x4 storeroom, and we were only open for 2 hours a day, and guys could come with vouchers from that. So we started small, but our premise has always been rather under-promise and over-deliver than over-deliver and under-promise. And so we started off in that tiny little facility, and eventually we started expanding to offer other services outside of the Lifeboat redemption time, which is between 11 and 1. We started offering other services, and when we finally moved to Levy Street, which was 3 years ago in October, we were able to offer a full day of services as well as the Lifeboat redemption time. So that's basically the thinking behind our starts and how we are still modeling ourselves around that same principle of not being just a drop-in center. We actually want to get to know the guys and become their family.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And then obviously, well, hearing that, it's amazing to hear how it's grown, going from the back of a car boot to an actual, and I've been there. I know how big the building, it's not big, but it's enough to do your operations through and you basically be comfortable.
Yeah.
And I will also say it does feel home. There's an atmosphere when you go there, and it's always brilliant. Like, I love going there. There's, I don't know, it's just something that's
a cool energy.
Yeah, I think it's the love that you guys also, you don't wear it, you don't hide your love, your compassion, that you wear it on your sleeve, and you show the guys that they come there, basically. But I think going from hearing the idea, what are the actual aims of Life Changer and Lifeboat? What is the actual services and the aim that you guys provide?
Yeah, so basically we have as an underpin anything that you would be able to get from your family, we would like to offer. So we offer obviously food, clothing, cosmetics, the basic, your sort of lowest bar of human requirements, haircuts, manicures, basic ablution facilities, like the guys can come and wash their clothes, or they can actually wash themselves with us. And then we also assist them with things like counselling and social, psychosocial support. We've got, every single day, we've got qualified people there who are trained to work with addicts, trained to work with traumatized individuals, who are available for free, and the guys can book an appointment and come and see them. And then every day we also have voucher earning programs, but they have some kind of restorative element to them. So one day, for instance, we'll do rubbish cleaning on the streets, and the guys can then earn a voucher. But we also do crafts and cooking classes and music lessons and various things. And these are all sort of like from an occupational therapy point of view, looking at how can we develop a person holistically. And there's something really magical about a homeless person who thinks they can't do anything, creating a beautiful craft item or a beautiful artwork or a delicious meal that gets served and everyone speaks about how lovely it is, and we eat the same meal with them and are so chuffed for them. So there's just something lovely about that. And we've had guys who've often felt they could do nothing of any worth, and then they do something in our crafts or our cooking or our music lesson, and they suddenly have that affirmation that they can do something of worth that is beautiful. And then, of course, keeping the streets clean. They are often blamed for the litter on the streets, but we forget that that's where they live. Yeah. And they don't want to live amongst that. So I often joke that my street is the cleanest street in Pietermaritzburg, but genuinely Levy Street, where we are, is never dirty because our clients look after our street. and they really take pride in the fact that our street is quite clean. So yeah, that's what we do outside of that. And then we've also got, obviously, we help clients who are ready to go into rehab. We help get them prepared for rehab, and then get them into rehab, and then get them receive them when they come out, because that's one of our big challenges. We've recently also started getting people put into mental health facilities, because obviously mental health is something that really is a problem on the streets. We've also got clinic services, so basic wound care, basic clinic services. But what's lovely is we've got qualified sisters who can then refer on to hospitals or to more equipped facilities. So yeah, so it's basically what your parents would do for you is what we're offering to do for them. We've helped people get their IDs, we've helped people get their driver's licenses. We've stored things for people, like if they're saving money or if they're trying to keep stuff safe, we act as like a storage facility. Yeah, it's basically to be what your family would do for you.
Yeah, like home, basically.
Like home, yeah.
Sure. And then, yeah, I know you were talking about earlier about your experience with the homeless man calling you Mama Colgate. But what are the type of other experiences that you've had going from your first, it can be positive, negative, but just the experiences that you've had while helping the homeless?
You're going to make me cry. I think obviously Mama Colgate is one that has always stuck with me because he's still there and he still calls me Mama Colgate. But a lot of the guys call me Auntie Caroline, like the rice, because that's how they remember my name. But I I had an awful experience, not awful, but heartbreaking experience very early on one of those Monday night street ministry nights where we were handing out Gideon's Bibles. And I met a young lady who looked so beautiful. She was so beautifully dressed and she was like the picture. She was just so beautiful. And she was living on the streets. And when I gave her English Bible, she said, Zulu Bible, sorry. She said she can't read isiZulu because she's been in prison and she was taught to read in prison and she could only read English. And could I please help her find an English Bible? Anyway, we formed a sort of friendship, and just hearing her story, which is just devastating as to how she ended up on the street. And then she goes missing from time to time, and worrying about her. And just the layers and layers and layers of stuff that's gone on in her life, and why she went to prison in the first place, all of which, I don't necessarily want to speak about here, but it's just been so brutally honest, and realizing that, like, there but by the grace of God go I. If I had had her life, I would have done exactly what she had done. And she's actually on one of our posters that people have seen, and I've written a blog post about her. And she showed up at Lifeboat the other day to say, I knew you were worried about me, so I just came to say hello. And then I started crying, and she was like, Mama Caroline, please don't cry. And I was like, but of course I'm going to cry. I'm so happy to see you. And then she started crying, and she's like, I knew you would care. And those are the type of stories, like after the looting, when the guys came to Lifeboat to say, we knew you'd be worried about us, so we came to tell you we were okay.
Sure.
That's our heart, is we want people who are invisible to so many citizens in our city to know that they can come to us and we see them. And we love them.
Oh, no, you guys are you're actually making me a little bit emotional too.
Sorry.
No, but it's amazing just to hear the experiences that you guys have. And I'm actually speechless.
We had someone phone us today whose brother was on the streets for a number of years, and he started coming to Lifeboats, and we helped him restore his relationships with family, and he was reintegrated back home. So I think you asked, what is our ultimate goal?
Yeah.
That's one of them, is to reintegrate people back into their community and, where possible, repatriate them back home. And he passed away, sadly, this week. But he passed away surrounded by family.
Sure.
And she said, I don't think you realize the gift it was for me to know that you were looking after my brother, and I could come there and see him. And it was through that we restored his dignity, that we restored his relationships with family. And one of this guy's wishes in his life was to be reconciled with his father.
Sure.
And he was. And that's an amazing story. It's obviously a loss for the family, but it's an amazing story that he came off the streets and was reconciled to his family. And that's our goal. And then the other thing which we do, which I haven't mentioned yet, is we work in children's homes, specifically Maritzburg Children's Home, where a child is an out-and-out orphan and has nowhere to go when they age out or when they leave there. We help them find a place to go, because up to 40% of the guys on the streets have come through the childcare system, and when they age out, they've got nowhere to go. So we try and help them find a place to go so that they don't end up on the street. Yeah. So that's so we work from a three-pronged approach. We help stop the flow by working in the children's homes. We help people who are actively on the street get off the street, and then we also help people who are sort of at risk of falling through the cracks to catch them before they fall through the cracks.
Sure.
Yeah.
So going off from that, then I'm going to bounce back to a lower question, but also asked, and I think it's quite a big question by itself, is can you choose to be homeless? I know in a sense you can. There is that ability, but a lot of people say, you chose this life. And it's like, not all the time. In my opinion piece, I think last year I wrote there, we walk on a very haphazard line, and we always think that someone's there to pick us up if we do fall. Not a lot of us have that, and I think in that sense, becoming homeless is not actually a choice in a lot of cases. And you saying outgrowing the orphanage, is that also what leads to homelessness?
Yeah. So I can turn that question on you. And if you can think for a second, okay, you're a woman. Can you imagine what life on the streets is like for a woman? You know, we've got Women's Month coming up next month, which we're doing stuff for at Lifeboat. How bad would home have to be for you to choose that life?
No, it would have to be horrendous.
So that's the reality, is if someone has chosen to live on the street, it's not because it was a good choice or an easy choice. It was because it was their only choice. And a lot of people think it was addiction that drove the guys onto the street. It's often addiction that keeps them on the street, but it's also addiction that keeps them alive on the street. Because if you need to sleep on a cold Maritzburg street where people come and throw buckets of water on you and people come and beat you up and steal your bedding and all kinds of horrible things all night, what would you need to take in order to sleep?
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. I mean, we all take sleeping tablets and anti-anxiety medication and antidepressant medication. That's what the drugs are to these guys. They're their survival mechanism. And then, of course, they become dependent, and that's a different animal. But in order to survive, in the beginning, certainly, the drugs are the only thing that help them sleep. We had a client who witnessed his mother being murdered, and he was from a single-parent home, so he became an orphan. He came and lived on the streets to look after his sister, and he was going to hustle to earn enough money to go back and look after her. And, of course, he ended up there. And when we asked him, why does he do Wunga, he said, I do it to forget. And that's the reality is. So I think, yes, to answer your question, yes, I think some people do choose it, but they don't choose it because it's an easy choice or because they think it's going to be better or it's going to be nice. I think they choose it because they have to. A lot of our clients are come from very traumatic homes, so the streets are escaping that. A lot of our clients come from children's homes. As we said, up to 40% of them come through the childcare system and then have nowhere to go. Poverty is a very real thing, and they get caught. And that's where, if we can catch them early, we can help them repatriate quite quickly. But the longer you're on the streets, the longer it becomes the only life you know.
I think going off from that, because now obviously the drug use, the addicts, that's one of the most common misconceptions that people have of the homeless. Are there any other ones that stand out or have been thrown at them that just, I suppose, takes their humanity almost away? It prevents them from looking human.
Yeah. Look, I think there's a misconception around the drugs that the drugs make them violent. The Witness did a wonderful article a number of years ago about what it's actually like to have Wunga withdrawal, where they explain how absolutely torturous it is to your body to be in withdrawal from drugs. That's actually what results in violence. You've been on the streets. The guys who are on drugs aren't violent. So I'm not endorsing drug taking. I'm just saying there's that misconception that they are violent because they're on drugs. It's not that. Another misconception is, of course, that they are part of the reason why our streets are so dirty. You don't see many guys who are homeless eating buckets of KFC and drinking bottles of beer. And that's what we find on our streets. So let's be real. Our waste pickers are actually one of the reasons why our streets aren't worse than what they are. So that's a misconception. And, of course, that every homeless person's out to rob you. I mean, we deal with that all the time. Go out on the streets at night and when people come for the first time, the first thing they think is, oh, can I wear my watch? Can I wear my belt? Can I? They're not out to rob you. They so appreciate being acknowledged as human beings and seen. Yes, there are, as there are in every society, from the top to the bottom of the culture, there are people who are dishonest and there are people who are criminal, and of course. But it's not every single one of them, which is often the preconception.
I must say, when we went out with some Piwe, with the night ministry and that, we also had a bit of that. One of us was a bit skittish, and it's like, oh, but I've had this happen to me before, and it's like, you don't want to have that whole thought. It could be one person. It's not the whole population type thing.
Yeah. And
I must say, going out with you guys, it opens your eyes. It's something, how quiet and dead the streets are, but then you've got this little bit of life of these men or women just huddled together for warmth and obviously that brotherhood and like safety and that, because when one might be sleeping, the other one's keeping watch, or vice versa, or they might just be at that point just both sleeping because they feel safe.
Yeah.
No, it's such an amazing thing to think of at that. But yeah, obviously going from that as well, how important it is to raise that awareness, to have schools and institutions actually educating people as well, saying that these are the misconceptions, these are not the reality, and that how important is it for schools and institutions to also bring awareness.
I'll tell you what, if there's one thing in the world we've stuck by, it's that every single conversation is valuable. And to be able to encourage children especially get it, that these guys are human too, and they're no different from you and I. Children get it a lot faster than the adults do. And to have conversations around the dinner table with your family, with your friends, where you're talking about people and seeing the humanity in them is so valuable. That thing that God stirred up in me, I don't have favorites. Like, what gives you as a person who's in a school a right to think that you're any better than the person who's sitting outside begging? There is no better. You know what I mean? One is just more fortunate, or life has just worked out better. I could tell you horror stories of things that go wrong in people's lives that end up on the street that you would not believe. I mean, that Hollywood would write films over for years of the things that go wrong. And you're like, literally, could anything more go wrong in this person's life? And the answer is always yes. And the problem is, the difference is, when it goes wrong in their life, there's no one to catch them.
Yeah.
There's no one to stop it. There's no one to prevent it. There's no one to repair it. Whereas when you're privileged enough to have a family or a community around you, there's always that reparation that can take place. There's always that correction that can take place. And so to have conversations at schools, when we speak to schools, we always speak about the Adverse Childhood Experience Study, which is a study by a group of psychologists that determines whatever your ACE score is based on the number of traumas you've had up until the age of 18. It's basically a predeterminant factor as to what's going to happen in the rest of your life.
Sure.
So if you've got an ACE score of 4, which is not difficult to get to, mine's 4, you have a very high likelihood of being addicted to certain substances like tobacco and alcohol, or you have a higher risk of not being able to hold down a job, not being able to obtain a matriculation certificate, finish a degree. And then, of course, you've got things called the preventative ACEs, which is what happens when you've got a good teacher or a good parent or a good priest or pastor or a grandparent or someone who can step in and correct that trauma when it happens. Our guys don't have that. So our average homeless person has been on the street since they were about 15 years old. The demographic we work with, because we're not allowed to work with children, are between the ages of 19 and 35, and they've been on the street for at least 5 years.
Sure.
At least 5. If you track it back, they are the children of the HIV pandemic that hit South Africa in the early 2000s, when we were the highest, KwaZulu-Natal was the highest AIDS concentration in the world. So they have no family, they have no parents, they have no community. And that's why I say it goes back. It's not just a choice that they make today. Yeah. So, just educating people and have those conversations where we all have those preconceptions. They were drug addicts, they were useless, they've chosen to go to school, to the streets, and just shift that a little bit so that one person's heart can change. That's how we got our first lifeboat, is we gave a talk at a school, and we said every single homeless person was once a beloved baby that was received into this world as an innocent child. And that just broke this guy's heart. And he came and said afterwards, I've got a building for you.
Sure.
So no conversation is wasted. Yeah.
Words are very valuable. Definitely,
words are very valuable.
Yeah. And they last longer, I would say, as well. Yeah. I think, I love that I keep on saying going off, but basically, it's from what you've just said, and that with the education, the awareness, the importance of any conversation, there is a bit of information you can easily take no matter what. And that I think, what would you say then, going from being on the ground, what is the support most needed? Especially like what could Msunduzi municipality, our city that we're in, what could they also look at doing and helping with this plight?
Firstly, I think we can't look to one organization to solve the whole problem. It's a complex problem. As I've mentioned, we've got trauma, we've got addiction, we've got mental health issues, we've got males and females, we've got, a really big problem. And if we start mining into the causes of homelessness, almost each one could be a different solution. So I think it's naive to think that one organization or one body, for instance, Mzinduzi, could solve it. We need to work together and collaboratively, and also just know what we can do and know what we can't, if that makes sense. For instance, Life Changer knows that what we're doing is helping. We saw over 13,000 people through our doors last year.
Sure.
We're helping, but we're not equipped to run a rehab facility, for example. We're not trained to do that. We don't have the space. We don't have the finances. But someone could step up and say they will run a rehab facility. We don't have one that is appropriate for homeless people in Pietermaritzburg. We don't have a shelter in Pietermaritzburg. So those are two things that we desperately need. We need halfway houses that are safe, that are not going to be so big that they become gang establishments.
Yeah.
Small, manageable halfway houses. And we need addiction support. We need addiction support for our clients. So many things. And of course, work opportunities. And that also comes from these conversations to say, because at Life Changer, if we give someone an opportunity to work, it's something that they're interested in, and it's a relationship. So we'll go and we'll say to the witness, we've got a guy who likes to write, could you help him? And we'll form a partnership, and the three parties will work together, the client, the witness, and Life Changer, because you're dealing with someone who's coming from a very different background and a different sort of level of skills. For example, we've helped our clients get jobs as hairdressers. We've helped our clients get jobs as bakers and recyclers, and but it takes a different type of skill set than just employing someone who's stepped out of university, for example. But those are the things that need to happen in order to successfully rehabilitate a homeless person or solve the problem somewhat. I do, however, want to say that there are some people on the streets who have been there for so long that the prospects of them ever getting off the street is very small. It's going to be very difficult for them. They have no family to speak of. They are deeply addicted to substances. They perhaps have criminal records and all kinds of things. And in that instance, what we as a whole city could do is just to love them, to accept, not to accept them necessarily, but to just see them as human beings, to see them as our fellow man, to see them as fellow citizens of the city, to see the humanity in them and to treat them with respect. I think that's something that can happen, that should happen more.
But how do you go about having compassion for people that, I suppose how we would say, how can you have compassion for someone that doesn't love themselves anymore? So, for instance, I remember speaking with some POA about a man that you guys were helping get into rehab, and the next thing he turns around and says, well, on the way to rehab, or was sitting at the rehab in Durban, and he turned around and said, I smoked last night, type thing. I can't be here. How, in that moment, I know it's very tense because you've just sat with them for weeks, months on end, rehab, getting them ready, the lists, everything. How, in that moment, how important is the compassion in that moment? Just to...
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's also understanding, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Self-actualization, which is self-love, which is seeing ourselves as anything as value, is the highest level of human need. It's the highest level that we can achieve. Before that, we need to have all our physiological needs met, the need for a basic shelter, the need for basic ablution facilities, then the need for security. All of those things need to happen before we can self-actualize. And if you're someone who's been stepped over, stood on, peed on, overlooked, ignored for the better part of 5 years plus, you don't see yourself as a human being anymore. And when you have none of those levels of basic human requirements for survival in place, it's going to be very difficult to climb that mountain. And so, in that case, like with that guy, I mean, we keep working with him, and we'll keep working with everyone who comes to our door. because I've certainly made mistakes in my life. I've certainly fallen from grace. I've certainly not made the best decisions at times. And I think we look at that and realize that he's doing it not because he wants to. He didn't want to not go to rehab. He really wanted to go to rehab. But he defaulted to what his normal pattern of behavior was, because perhaps he didn't think he was worth the rehab on some kind of level. I mean, the other day when this lady who I spoke of earlier came back to Lifeboat, I walked out and I said to a friend, I said, there's two ways to look at this. The one is I've known her for 6 years, and for 6 years she's been on the streets and we've still not helped her. The other way is in 6 years, after 6 years, she knows that Mama Caroline is worrying about her. And I might be the only person that when she's going to sleep at night, she thinks Mama Caroline is worrying about me. We helped a young man find a home, and he was sleeping in this place, which wasn't, you and I wouldn't call it a home. He called it a home. And we helped him find a place to live, and he was sleeping there. And the person whose wall next door to him had left a stove on overnight, and it started burning, and he woke up, and the flames were engulfing his whole room. And he was about to lose everything he had. It happened to be on my birthday. And he opened his eyes and saw these flames, and he said, I can't die on my mother's birthday. And he ran out and he phoned me at 1 o'clock in the morning, and he said, Mama Caroline, it's your birthday, but I nearly died tonight. And it was heartbreaking. He lost every possession that he'd worked for. He was selling all kinds of stuff to try and hustle and make a living so that he could live there. And he lost everything. But the point is, he knew he could come back, and to have compassion and be like, okay, you've lost everything, let's help you rebuild. Because, if your parents are good parents, that's what they would do with you. And God is a good God, and that's what he's done with us. And so that's the least that we can do for them.
At the end of the day, what is your big, big dream for the homeless and for, I know you said aims, but at the end of the day, what is the big dream that you want to achieve or see?
I think it would be naive to say I don't want to see people on the street. Even the Bible says the poor will always be with us. I would love to see a world, though, where they are treated with a bit more respect, a bit kinder, a bit more kindness. I mean, imagine being the city that says our homeless people are treated with kindness. I know there are cities in the world that have made it their mission to eradicate homelessness completely, but I don't think they have the problems that we do in terms of the addiction, in terms of the trauma, in terms of the racial, generational trauma that goes on in South Africa with this specific demographic. But I would love to have a facility that was really working optimally. We're a small NPO, we're self-funded, so we're not working optimally yet. We're doing a great job, and I'm proud of my team, incredibly proud of my team, and grateful for them. But we could do so much more if we had more space, for instance. If we had land that we could work. I mean, there's so much benefit to working the soil and growing your own food. Imagine being able to offer that as a rehabilitation program to the homeless. Imagine being able to offer them employment opportunities once they come out of a halfway house. So I would love to see a bigger version, and we've got the blueprint. We've been dreaming about it for 7 years. So I would love to see a bigger version of Lifeboat, Life Changer. I think the model, that's what I would love to see for us, for the homeless themselves, though. I'd love to see them feel that at least they're living in a city where they're not considered, this is the word, paras, where they're not considered parasites, where they actually are seen as human beings and treated with a little bit of dignity from every walk of life in the city, not just the NGOs, not just the churches or the organizations that are helping them. I think I wish that for everyone, but when I hear about some of the things that happen to our clients, it's really inhumane, and it happens at the hand of people that you don't want to hear that they're doing those type of things to their fellow man, Yeah.
Oh, well, awesome. Thank you so much for coming, obviously, today and giving us your time and explaining everything from beginning to end of how you guys are on the streets, making home feel like home, both being in a building to a team, and the fact that you guys are on the ground basically almost every day, every Monday, you guys you're making sure you're going out there, and they can see that there's a safe space to go back to, and they are, as you said, they can think back and be like, hey, she's gonna be worrying about me. I need to come in and say hi, at least to be like, and then I can disappear for 5 more days, but then I'll come back again.
Yeah.
So at least at the end of the day, you can see it's home, and I love that you can peel that onion and show all the different layers of it. Yeah. So yeah,
I think this is another thing. Sorry, just as closing, is it doesn't cost anyone anything to say hello to another person, and then the next time you see them to say, "What's your name?"
Yeah.
And the next time you see them to say, "Hello, Kayla, nice to see you," because immediately they'll stop asking you for money as well, because they'll see you as their friend. No, and that's the truth. They'll see you as a fellow human being, and you'll see them as a fellow human being. And I think that, thank you for giving me an opportunity to just talk about them, because they're my mates, they're my friends, they're our clients, they're my family, and they are part of our city as well, important part of our city.
Yeah. Well, we wouldn't be functioning the way we are without them. Think about it, like as you said, clean streets and all the other things. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think just give us an idea as to how these lifeboat vouchers work and where we can get a hold of them.
Okay. So the lifeboat voucher, I wish I had them, is we sell them in booklets of 10, like raffle books, those dreaded raffle books that come home from school, except they're green tickets and they cost 10 Rand each, so it's 100 Rand for a booklet. They are something that the public can keep with them, or they can choose to donate back to us to distribute on street ministry nights. But we encourage the public to just keep it with them and then hand it to a person who's begging. There are people who will say no. They'll say it's too far, or they'll say no thanks, they don't want to come. That's okay. That's the dignity of choice. Every life changer voucher is numbered, so you can go on our website and actually check to see if your voucher's been redeemed, which is also lovely, because if you are someone who's a conscientious giver, you don't want to waste your money.
Yeah.
So you can give them a voucher and then go and check. It gets updated sort of once every 2 months, but you can go and see it's updated, your number's there, and the guy that you gave your voucher to is using it. They then can come and use it with us. As I said earlier, they can get it for a meal, a haircut, an item of clothing, cosmetics, manicures. I know that sounds ridiculous, but when you live on the streets, your hands often are grubby, so you get nice manicure. And we've had other services they get offered from time to time, but those are the basics. And they're available throughout the city in various places, like Athlone Pick and Pay sells them, Blue Gel Hair Studio sells them, lots of churches sell them, All Saints sells them, One Life Church sells them, and so there are a few other little businesses. All the details are on our website, though. It's lifechangersa.org. And we have got a full list of outlets. I think there are about 30 outlets, but it's little businesses across the city that support us. And we also work with 9 different churches that all come together at Lifeboat. So we fall under the One Life Foundation, but we partner with 9 churches to run it. So that's where our volunteers come from. That's where our donations come from a lot of the time. So all of those churches also sell the vouchers, and I'm forgetting all their names now, of course. But yes, all those details are on our website.
Yeah. Awesome.